on June 21st, there is a full moon in Capricorn. And this is the first of two full moons. We'll get one in July also. And then back in January, we had a Capricorn new moon. And then next December, we get a Capricorn new moon. That's a lot of Capricorn energy in 1 year. What does that mean for you? That's what we're going to talk about. Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the full moon. It's on June 21st. It's at 1 degree of Capricorn. We're going to do a short overview and then we're going to go sign by sign. So besides the 4 elements that you're probably familiar with, the 12 signs are also divided into 3 categories, which we call modalities. These are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Now, cardinal signs represent the generation of power. Fixed signs represent the concentration of power, and then mutable signs represent the distribution of power. So in other words, cardinal is about moving forward, fixed is about staying put, and mutable is about that transition between one state or the other. So Capricorn is a cardinal sign, so this is your ability to generate power. And specifically, Capricorn is about ambition and perseverance. It's about work and trying to create stability, or more importantly, trying to build something that is your mark in the world. So right now, the inclination is to build something. And so we're all looking around at our resources to see what it is that we can build. And so it's kind of like if you thought that we each had like a magical 3D printer that we could print any of the building blocks that we needed, or any of the tools that we need, or any of the components that we need. But we need something to put into the printer to print these building blocks. And so we are looking at all of our resources, which would be our money, our time, our energy, and seeing what we can conserve so that we can put it into this magical machine to build what we want. And what it is that we would really like to build right now is represented by Mars and Taurus, which would be financial stability. And so, but the moon hasn't quite reached the trine energy for that. It's a little out of reach. And so it does feel like we have to move towards this, but because it's out of reach, it feels a little unstable. And so therefore we feel uncertain. And we can often feel uncertain when the moon is involved, especially on a full moon. So we are collecting together our resources or holding on to them a little tighter, and we're trying to reach for something that feels slightly out of reach. And then this particular full moon is sitting opposite, of course, the sun, which it always would during a full moon, but also Venus and Mercury. And so full moon is the party. So it feels like there's a party going on somewhere. And like you can hear the sounds, you can smell the food, and you're trying to get to the party, but you haven't made it to the party yet. And part of it is because you want to come in with whatever it is that you've built, whether it's to say, I found a great relationship, or I bought a house, or I got a new job. You want some sort of accomplishment to announce to the party. And so there's this energy of kind of working on something, but trying to rush so you can get to the party. So what do we do about that? Well, in the chart, we always look at the sign that the planet is in and then find the ruler of that sign to get more information. And so this is a full moon in Capricorn, so Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so we go check with Saturn. And Saturn is in Pisces, and this is energy that is wonderful for imagination and ability to see all possibilities. So the combination is great because we have this imagination, and then whatever resources we have, we feed into this magical 3D printer, and we build what we want. Unless our imagination is just filled with nightmares given to us by someone else. So the media and other people are very, very happy sending us negative pictures because that gets our attention. But for every negative picture that they send, there are tens of thousands of happy moments out there of births and puppies and marriages and new jobs and just general happiness. And so we can focus on what's actually happening in our lives, or we can accept the vision that someone else is giving us. And there is a spiritual rule out there that states that the strongest vision wins. So that means if you give over your own vision and accept someone else's, it becomes the strongest vision in your life, and then that one wins. Okay, in this video, we are doing tropical Western astrology. It's a good idea to listen to your rising sign, as this is going to give you the most accurate predictions. If you don't know your rising sign, I can send you a PDF of your chart. There is a link in the description. If you would like to know more about what is in store for you over the next couple of months or even the next year, I do readings. There is a link in the description. And I'm going to be doing more videos over the next couple of months. So if you have a particular question about astrology that you would like me to do a video on, leave it in the comments and I might do a video on it. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, you're doing this full moon right at the top of your chart. And so what you want to build would be things that are around your reputation or your presence in the world, your social standing, and working on your career. And so things like that are in line with this full moon energy. And because this is full moon, the first thing to do would be to do an assessment of where you're at and then give yourself the kind of a grade. And I know, that sometimes people can be very harsh with themselves. Sometimes they can go too easy on themselves. This is Capricorn energy. So it asks you to do an honest assessment and then set up a plan that you will implement on the new moon in a couple of weeks. So you could take this whole 2 weeks to do this assessment, or you might do this assessment in a day or two. But once you have that to say, where's my reputation? How is my career going? What's my industry? Where is it heading? Is this the job I want? All of these things, maybe write these down and really ask yourself, is this what you want? And then from there, you can develop a plan for moving forward. And that's what Capricorn energy loves. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, there's no aspect going on between the sun and Mars. Mars is sitting squarely in your house of money. And so I think your attention is elsewhere, which makes sense. Additionally, since the new moon, since the full moon is talking about reputation and all of that, as you build your reputation or your social standing, you will be able to attract more opportunities to meet people and maybe move towards a love relationship in the future. So this is kind of like take beginning steps towards this. That's what you can do with this full moon energy. And then when we look at existing love relationships, there's a beautiful sextile between Venus and Mars. So this means that the two of you have a lot of opportunities to bring your relationship closer, to do things together, to have a good time. So this is very nice energy for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money not just from that Venus, but because Mars and Uranus are in this house, you're also pulling from those sources as well. And so the Venus, of course, being at the base of your chart, asks you to look at the foundations, basically how you were raised and what sort of money messages went into your head when you were growing up. And some of those may be very helpful, some of them may not, and to kind of do an assessment of what's working and what isn't. So, but the Mars also, because it's your ruler, helps you when you put yourself out there in the world. And the Uranus, which is connected to groups and organizations in your chart, that would also mean like getting out there, meeting people, expanding your networking. That's going to help you make more money. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Venus is making an inconjunct with Pluto. And this indicates that there are some things that you don't really want to do, but those could directly lead to money. So inconjunct energy is interesting because it can feel like that the cost is a little bit high to do whatever it is that you want to do. So you have to not just look at the initial cost, but maybe the lifetime costs of something. Like if you are paying this much to gain a new customer or to find an investment, what could that customer or investment pay you over the lifetime? But also be very aware of sunk costs, where you may hold on to something that's not as viable just because you've put already time or money or energy into it. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that's paycheck, Venus is not making an aspect with Uranus. And so the energy here says that the timing's not quite right. Venus is right at the base of your chart, so it's a little bit hidden. Maybe your boss doesn't know all the things you've been doing. So Uranus is in your house of money, so there is something that's coming up for you, and this will line up in the future. But at this moment and for the next 2 weeks, it says that this is not the best energy for asking for a raise. Okay, Taurus, this full moon energy is lighting up your area of travel and legal matters and things that are foreign and all of that, but also education. Basically what you know, what you believe. And so this is a time where it's a good idea to take that Capricorn energy and do an assessment of your skills. Where do you know that your skills are strong? Where do you know that your skills need to be built up a bit? And then, maybe that means going and pursuing a degree. Maybe that means pursuing a certificate. Maybe that just means doing some self-study so that you can gain the skills that you want. And, what are your study methods and things like that. So of course, with full moon energy, maybe you're doing some traveling. Maybe you are also doing legal matters. But if you have an opportunity to do this assessment, because this is, this energy is lit up for that right now, that can be very helpful. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is making a conjunction with Venus. This is a great time for you to be out there meeting new people. You could find someone for a love relationship. This is focused in your community, so this is a little bit less about long distance relationships. However, because the full moon is lighting up your area of things that are foreign or at a distance, you could meet someone for a long distance relationship, or you could meet someone when traveling. But the energy is quite good. So if you're looking for love, you want to get out there and meet people. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making an inconjunct with Pluto. So there is something between the two of you that you're not communicating well with each other, and it's almost like apples and oranges, or actually more like oil and water. These things don't really mix. And so there needs to be maybe working on a shared vocabulary, like what's your definition of be on time, or what's your definition of urgent, or things like that. So, or just to, kind of think about how your partner is saying things to you and what else they could mean. Because over this next 2 weeks, you have opportunities to figure things out about how you communicate with each other. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Mercury, as well as you pull energy from that Jupiter, which is going through your house of money now, which is connected to your house of resources. And so you have both things that say, like work on paperwork, work on plans, work on contracts and things like that, as well as, look at the resources that have come up. What is available? What are you not, taking advantage of? Because, and it's sitting there, and maybe you have some reasons for not availing yourself of those, but be clear about those with yourself so that it wasn't just, oh, I got too busy, but more, I did a real assessment of this, but it's not good for me at this time to go for this resource. But you have these different money opportunities right now. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Mercury is making a semi-sextile with Jupiter. So with a semi-sextile, we've talked about this on this channel, this energy can be accessed, but sometimes it means that you have all the building blocks, but you have building blocks for something you didn't want to build. And so there has to be some sort of little adjustments made. And so, in other words, maybe you're seeing opportunities for your investments, but you haven't had time to look at them, or you don't feel qualified to do it, or there's good points on both sides, which often happens with investments. And sometimes it just needs you to sit down and look through it so that you can start to get that information and let the universe send you messages. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune. And Neptune is getting very, very late in Pisces. Now, it is going to go retrograde pretty soon, and then, it's going to, you're going to have opportunities where this is going to line up in the future. But right now, it may feel like the opportunity is past. It isn't. Even if the boss is saying, we don't see this changing in the near future, again, how do they know? It could change. So this is not necessarily the right time to pursue this now, but there will be some times coming up. And so, stay tuned to the channel. Okay, Gemini, you're doing this full moon, lighting up your area of resources. And this is resources from others. And so that can be everything from someone who has expertise, who could give you a helping hand, to, investments or business, even to medical advice and things like that. So resources, basically. And with the Capricorn energy there, it says it's time to do an assessment of what your resources are. And sometimes that means just making a list of all of the resources you really do have available. And that can even be, like there's a public library where you can get books, when you have that list of resources, then you can assess the next step, which is, am I utilizing these resources? Is there something I'm not taking advantage of here? So this is also about raising your skill level when it comes to doing business or creating passive income sources or doing investments. And, so if you assess that, okay, there is so much more I could learn and I do have the resources to learn, then you set up a plan that you might start on the new moon. So this area is also about power and control. And so doing an assessment of what is in your control, what is out of your control, how, are you trying to control external things when in actuality it'd be easier just to control how you respond to those things. So that's the energy that you're doing with this full moon. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury is making a beautiful conjunction with Venus. So this is a great opportunity to get out of the house, meet new people, or go see a matchmaker, or do online dating, or ask your friends and family to fix you up. This is a great time. This opportunity for you means you could meet someone new and a friendship could blossom into love. And so it's just very good energy. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making a semi-sextile with Jupiter. So now there is some small irritations that the two of you are kind of suffering through that could become problematic in the future if you don't deal with it now. So maybe it's something new that your partner's doing and it just kind of irritates you. They have a new catchphrase or something, or you can't stand the t-shirt they're wearing or something. And when we look at that with where the full moon is, you do have to also say, that you can't control all externals. And so sometimes our partners do things that do cause us irritation, but we have to say, okay, that's just them. But otherwise, this is your opportunity to stop and say, this has been bothering me for a little while and I want to express that, and maybe it's easy to change. And that can help your relationship. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that full moon that is in your house of resources, as well as all of the different energies that are pulled from the 3 planets that are in your house of money, Sun, Venus, and Mercury. And so this means that your sources of money right now are numerous. And so there's something connected to communication. There's something where you could connect to your family or your local community. There's something here that says about your creative work. There is putting yourself out there, saying, here I am, as well as doing spiritual things to help put you into the energy flow of money, and things like affirmations, meditation, feng shui, things like that. So you have a really strong chart for money right now. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, even though the moon's not making an aspect with Saturn, like I said, you are doing a really strong money chart. And so this means that most of the money that is coming, that you are generating, is going to come outside this 2-week period, but it's still there. So you can still do all of the things, but maybe you have a net 30, and so you're not going to get paid for a month, or this is, an investment that you're selling, but you're pushing the money right back into another investment, so it doesn't feel like there's profits. But this is still a very strong money chart for you. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be like a paycheck, the moon is not making an aspect with Mars. And this one, there's a little bit of a nuance because, again, you still have a very strong money chart. However, the Mars here is in Taurus, so it's right behind you. And so what that can indicate is that you need to promote what you're doing in your job a little bit better, because it's not seeing what you are accomplishing or how you are contributing to the bottom line of the company. So, and this could mean that you are doing work behind the scenes, you're working on a big project and it's not done yet. So, but there's something where if you can shift that communication over this next couple of weeks, then when this energy lines up, then it's going to be much easier for you to make more money in your job. Okay, Cancer, this full moon is lighting up your area of connections with others. And so this means that the assessment that you need to be doing of how you're doing so far and how everything's working is about relationships. And that means that if you feel like, okay, you have a great number of friends and you have a great relationship with your partner and all of that, then you give yourself an A+. But most of us don't get an A+. We have to work on things. And so this is your time to do an assessment of not just what you have in the way of connections, but what you've been doing to cultivate those connections and to strengthen those connections. And this, I know that it's hard with Capricorn energy because we can get a little judgy about it, especially to ourselves. So, but if you can do a straightforward, more clinical assessment, which, Capricorn energy does like the science side of things too, and say, okay, I don't have as many friends as I want, but I'm not getting out of the house. And so then we can say, okay, there's a solution to this. And what can I do to make it easier to get out of the house? So this is the opportunity. Now, you do have really strong relationship houses now. So as you do start to get out, you will be meeting people for all types of connections. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's making a semi-sextile with Pluto, which means that you could meet someone, but there's some little obstacle. This is not a big obstacle like they're married to, some starlet or something. This is that there is some little, like your schedules don't quite sync, or they're pretty far away, or there's something that it's like a little speed bump, a little hurdle to get over. And when you do, then things are fine. So when you meet someone for a love relationship, like, don't say no right away. And again, there's no reason to say like 100% yes. It's a semi-sextile. It just says explore it a little bit more. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though the moon's not making an aspect with Saturn, you have such strong relationship energy here that you can still work things out. It's just, it would be better to spend this 2 weeks kind of celebrating each other, really finding the best about what you love about your partner and why it's a great relationship, and focusing on that, because without an aspect, it's difficult to work out problems. If the relationship is going through problems, then you may find that during this 2-week period that you just get along really well, despite the problems that you're having. But then when aspects come along again, then you might say, oh, I thought this was solved. So it's not necessarily solved, and it's hard to solve things during this 2-week period, but you could have a really nice time with your partner. And then when this aspect lines up, if the relationship is in difficulty, then you can work on it. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from the sun, and the sun is in your own sign of Cancer, and so that means you are the source of money. That the more things that you do, that you put your name on, the more things where you step out of wherever you are into the spotlight, to the front of the group, taking the leadership role, all of those things are the things that bring you money. So this is, if you make yourself the star, then money comes to you. And some of it is because money can find you, and that's super important. So this is your time to step forward with confidence, because, that's the thing that's going to bring you money. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, the sun's making an out of sign semi-sextile to Uranus. So a semi-sextile is not the strongest of aspects, and then it's weakened by the out of sign condition. So it's a little bit more work to gain money from these sources over this 2 weeks. So think about focusing on what you can do, what you can adjust, what you can change that will bring you more money in the future. So this is a good time to assess whether the website's working and make plans for how you're going to streamline the process for your customers, or looking at your investments and then putting in some guidelines for making some decisions once we get towards that new moon time. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, the sun's making a conjunction with Venus. This is one of the best times to sit down with your supervisor and get that talk about the raise happening. It is also possible to, talk to HR, or, put yourself in a place where you can say, how can I, do better in this job? Also consider, if you're looking for a job, this is a good time to ask for more money in the process, in the interview process. Or if you've been talking about getting a raise for a while, this could be the time where your supervisor just comes and says, here you go, I'm finally giving it to you. Okay, Leo, this full moon is lighting up your area of daily routines, health, wellness, your habits, how you take care of the house and domestic things, and how you deal with your job on a day-to-day basis. And so the Capricorn moon's asking you to make an assessment of this to see if things could be more productive, more streamlined, more efficient, all the things that Capricorn loves. And it also asks, are there things that are falling through the cracks, and so reordering your schedule, making a plan for your goals and things like that. That's all about this Capricorn moon. So additionally, I wanted to say that, this is the month before your birthday. We're in the Cancer time now. And so for some of you, this will be a full 2 months away if you're late degree Leo. And for some of you, it will be somewhere between 1 month and that 2-month mark. And so when you're in the last month before your birthday, this is a time to really be finishing up the things that you've been working on for the last few months or up to 1 year ago. And so, making that push so that you can start your new solar year with that clean slate where you have room to put new projects and things like that can be really good. There may also be this desire to kind of clean up things a little bit, like declutter, which is totally in line with this full moon energy. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun is making a semi-sextile to Jupiter. So the energy is it's a little bit like a parking lot that has too many speed bumps. Like there seems to be friction between you and meeting someone. Now, there's still an aspect, and an aspect's better than no aspect. But maybe it takes a little bit more effort for you to get out of the house, to go to the party, to ask your friends, do they know anyone? So that's, if you can get past that idea that there are speed bumps and that you just have to get through them to get to your parking place, then you're okay. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun's making an out of sign semi-sextile with Uranus. So if the semi-sextile is the speed bumps, the out of sign means it's an unexpected speed bump. So between you and your partner, there could be some issues that come up that are completely out of the blue, that they suddenly tell you that there's something that really irritates them and you had no idea, and you are more upset about being surprised by it. And this could happen vice versa. They're upset that you didn't tell them before, but you didn't know before. So there is some stuff going on. Because there's an aspect, you can work it out, but it is a little bit like being caught off guard by some, and it's not, semi-sextile is not a big thing. It's some small irritation. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from Mercury, which is sitting in Cancer, which is kind of like behind you. It is where you might look back at the past and do kind of an assessment of where you've come, how your money is, to see, like how you're adhering to your budget, how your portfolio is doing, things like that. And then incorporating some of the spiritual elements into it as well, to put yourself into that mindset of looking for money opportunities. And so that might mean that you are doing some journaling about money, or that you are putting signs around to inspire you, or doing some feng shui to help yourself get in harmony with money energy, like shaking out your welcome mat, or placing a lucky money cat, or things like that. Those things, feng shui is to put your environment in harmony with your goals, so that your environment then supports you when you are out there doing your goals. So that's why feng shui works. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune, but it is making a semi-sextile with Jupiter. So you do have some opportunities. Again, you got that parking lot, it's got speed bumps. And so there's these little things that you have to do. You might feel some resistance about doing them, that somebody wants, I was going to come up with a bunch of examples, but I can't right now. There's some resistance that you feel for that is separating you from the money. So figure out what those are and assess the cost of those things. I mean, there's a cost to having to slow down and go over that speed bump really slowly. There's a cost to driving fast over speed bumps as well. So this is, or to skip that whole parking lot and go somewhere else, there's a cost to that. So this is a time to assess those costs, to see how you can make money where it still feels like it's right. Now, when it comes to money from your career, so that would be like a paycheck, because Mercury is at the very end of the cycle here, this is a time where you might feel like, it's been a long time since I've had a raise, and so, I'm really due for this and all that. But the energy is at the closing cycle of the finishing of something, and most bosses will see a raise as something to spur you forward to do something. So consider maybe just waiting for a couple of weeks. There's going to be some good energy coming up when Mercury is in your sign. So I would wait until that happens. Okay, Virgo, this full moon is lighting up this area where you are looking at your relationships with your children, how you're doing creative projects, if you're having any fun in your life. And also, it's asking you to look at how you deal with risk. And if you are I mean, if you're naturally risk averse, that's fine. That's just who you are. But where are you, not being risk averse where you should be? And where are you too risk averse where it's not helping you? This is a time to just do an assessment where then you can make changes later when we hit that new moon. This is a pretty harmonious moon for you. I shouldn't say pretty harmonious. It's quite harmonious moon for you. So doing an assessment like this might be something you do on a regular basis. But this is a good time to set aside the time. You ever have the sentence just get away from you? Yeah. It's me all the time. So set aside some time to do an assessment of these things, like how much time and energy are you spending on the relationship with your children, and is that working? Do they need less quantity time and more quality time? Are you worried about them too much when they actually are adults now and are doing okay on their own? Things like that. And, assessing whether you're having any fun. And are the things that you thought were fun in the past, are they still fun? Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, even though the moon's not making an aspect with Saturn, the moon's in Capricorn, so therefore it's already connected to Saturn, and the moon is lighting up your house of romance. So you have really good energy for connecting with someone for a love relationship. So this is a good time to get out of the house and meet new people. The Sun, Venus, and Mercury are sitting in that area of friendships and acquaintances and networking. So this is a good time to get out of the house and do that. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune, but it is making a semi-sextile with Jupiter. So there is some work you can do on this relationship to make it a little bit better, or you just may find that you're just slightly irritated with your partner, and maybe it's something where you're just going to let it go, and because it's minor, but and that can be fine. That can be like they're doing this now and it bugs me, but I'm okay, because you could wait for this energy to line up with a more positive aspect for dealing with it. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from that Venus, which is making a lovely aspect to Mars, which is the planet of action, but it's sitting opposite the moon. And so the moon in that area of risk and taking chances, this Venus may see all of these opportunities, but then the moon comes back and says, that feels risky, or feels like something I don't know, or it's outside my comfort zone. And so this is a time where you want to get with the moon and do a little bit of compromise and say, okay, you're maybe thinking of a money source, and that's going to require that you are out there in the world a little bit more, but you like to be behind the scenes. So then when you are negotiating with the moon in your area of risk taking, then you say, okay, is there a way that I don't have to be seen? Is there a way that I could just be seen as a persona? Like having a pen name or something like that? Or is this something I just need to get over, and so that I can be out in the world, and that means, maybe going to Toastmasters or an improv class or something like that. So there are some real opportunities here, but right now you're kind of negotiating with yourself about what you are willing to do to get that money. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Venus is making a great sextile with Mars. You have a lot of opportunities here. This is, you might even see something that's going to be a trend and bring you much more money in the future. So you really want to lean into some of these money opportunities that are starting to show up in your business or in your investments. And then when it comes to money derived from career, this is represented by that aspect of Venus opposed Moon that we were just talking about. And so as you approach your boss about a raise, they are going to take the opposite position and tell you all the reasons why it's not going to be a good idea, and you'll have to find some sort of compromise. So you may just want to wait until this energy lines up better for you. But if you're already in negotiations about a raise, then realize you're going to have to find some middle ground, and from there, then you can build towards what you want. Okay, Libra, this full moon is lighting up the base of your chart. That's the foundation of your chart. And so that indicates that there is a spotlight right now on what are the foundations of which you are building upon. So, and those foundations could be relationships with your family or what you are bringing forth from your upbringing. And so what are the beliefs and the philosophy that you adopted when you were younger and that you might be still using now, and how that's affecting your whatever you are building. This is also about looking at the structure of the family itself and how things are going with family members. You know, are you getting along? Are you supporting each other? Are you coming together to build something? This is also about the systems that you use to just maintain the house, you know, to get your meals prepped and to keep the household running and things like that. This is also, there's a possibility that there's a big spotlight now about working at home and maybe, you know, finding, because this is a full moon, we should say that you're doing an assessment of how things are going. So in all of those areas, all the domestic areas and family areas, you're doing an assessment of, all right, things that you put in place maybe a month ago, but maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. You are looking at those and saying, is this working for me? How am I doing? Now, of course, when we talk about this area, this is also about home ownership and real estate. And so you may be thinking, is it time to move? Is it time to look for a house? If you're in the real estate profession, you may be asking yourself, all right, where's my industry going? So that's where your focus is during this full moon. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is not making an aspect with Uranus, but Venus is very elevated in your chart. And so while you emotionally may be, out of the scenes and, like at home and not being as visible, every time you step out the door, you are more visible than usual. And that means that someone could approach you. Of course, if your head is elsewhere, you may not realize that they're asking you out or that they're interested. So your friends might tell you or family members might tell you, but that's why we see a little bit of a disconnect this time. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, you have a really good sextile going on between Venus and Mars. So you have really good energy. All you need to do is take a step towards your partner and you'll find that things work out and that you're able to work out issues, that you can come together in a more harmonious way, that you're getting along well, that you're having fun. So this is very good energy for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to your money, you're very focused on resources and what resources you have access to. What are the ones that you can say that you own? So when it comes to resources from others, of course, there's always a give and take. With everything that you gain, there may be some sort of cost attached, and you need to figure out what the cost is and whether you want to pay that bill. So this right now is in this house of resources, passive income, investments, business income. So all of those things are possible for you for ways of making money, but even the most passive income source is still going to take time and energy and maybe money to get it set up, to get it maintained in some way, or at least to understand how it works. And so right now, the source of your money is around determining whether the resources that are available to you are coming at a price that you want to pay. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Venus is making an inconjunct to Pluto and a sextile to Mars. So you have some really good energy. There may be a couple of things that you need to do that you haven't really wanted to do. Maybe there are things that you're not sure how to do. You know, something about the back office or of your business or a type of investment. But because you're doing the sextile, also there is energy here that says that if you take a step towards learning this, that someone will come up and say, I will guide you. So you have some very good energy for making more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be a paycheck, the sun is making an inconjunct to Pluto, and this is an exact inconjunct. And this means that there is an aspect, but it is one of those where it's not quite as obvious of how you get from point A to your destination. So, and that's where you come in, where you need to kind of guide your boss to where you want them to be. They may have their mind elsewhere. In fact, of course, their mind may not be on your finances, or that you want to raise, or that you haven't had a raise in how many months or years. So it's time for you to remind them. Now, there is a level of uncomfortableness with an inconjunct. And so either you're going to feel uncomfortable, or they're going to feel, whoever you're talking to is going to feel uncomfortable. And you have to be okay with that. And so, or you can share it. And so you might say, I don't like asking my boss for a raise. And your boss says, oh, you caught me off guard. I'm uncomfortable. So you're both uncomfortable, but you're sharing it. But because there's an aspect, there is an opportunity to get something done. Now, even more so because the sun is very elevated in your chart. And so if you're looking for a new job, this is a prime time to be asking for more money, because you do have really good energy around career changes right now. Okay, Scorpio, this full moon is lighting up your area of communication, thinking process, also transportation, and a few other things that we'll get into. So during this time, you are at this full moon kind of making an assessment of where you're at when it comes to communication. So this can mean that you are looking and saying, I want to improve my vocabulary, or I would like to get better writing skills, or I need to do more communication. Maybe it's time that you are standing up in front of a crowd and speaking, or that you want to finish your novel and send that out into the world. This is also about thinking process. And so that is where you look at where the trends are for you for thinking. Have you been more pessimistic lately? And that's not really you. And so you can get back on track to positive thinking. Or perhaps you have been collecting information from just a few narrow sources lately. And, no fault of your own, since the algorithm tends to push things that way. And it does take more effort to broaden where the sources of information come from. But this is a time where you would be looking at that and saying, all right, I want to build from here. So if the foundation is too narrow of the information that I'm getting, then I want to broaden that base. And then this is also about transportation. So you may be looking at your car and saying, it's getting old, or I'm going to keep it for another few years. This is really good if you drive for a living. If you do a side gig doing deliveries or something, this could be quite good for you. This is also about siblings and neighbors, and so there may be more interaction with siblings or interaction with neighbors at this time. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, of course, we have the Neptune making a nice sextile to Pluto. It is out of sign. The interesting part about this is that you do have a pretty strong relationship house now, because Mars is going through it. Now, Mars is not making an aspect to either of these planets. So it's good at this time to accept social invitations, to go be more social with people that you know and let them introduce you to their friends, to venture out and meet new people, to expand your circle of friends. So doing those things, it may not feel like it's directly leading to a love relationship, but you're planting the right seeds. I know, I just said planting seeds during a full moon, so which yeah, it's a longer seeding process. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making an inconjunct with Pluto. Now, inconjuncts are where we need to adjust or we need to have the other person adjust. And so oftentimes it's just easier if we do the adjusting. So it may be that there's a point of contention between you and your partner, and that perhaps you've both been standing your ground and now it's time to take a step towards them by making some sort of adjustment. And it'll feel uncomfortable at first, but this is the way to get to some sort of compromise. And I know that it's challenging. What can happen if you're not working on the relationship is you can be irritated with each other and then your partner doesn't even know it. Because this inconjunct aspect, well, any inconjunct aspect has a level of blindness to it where we don't see how these two energies could connect. So it could be that if you're upset with your partner, they don't realize it, or vice versa. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from Jupiter, which is now going through a money house for you for the next year. So you have so many opportunities. Now, opportunities do mean that you do still have to do something. So while you do have more luck with Jupiter, the luck is not so automatic. So Jupiter is in Gemini, and that means collect information, learn new skills, meet new people, read, listen to things. So in doing that, then you find new opportunities. So this is a full moon time, so you want to kind of assess what you are consuming in the way of content, and is that in line with your financial goals? And if it's not, then you can make some adjustments. So, and you know, this can be that maybe you're talking to people who don't know as much about money matters as you do, and that doesn't really help you on your money journey. Or maybe you really focus on learning more about investing, but you're spending your spare time listening to, books on woodworking or whatever. So this is an opportunity to see if the information that you're collecting is in line with your financial goals. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Mercury is making a semi-sextile to Jupiter. This indicates that small steps lead to what you want to do. And these are very small steps. And so sometimes studying about investing can be extremely daunting, or thinking about starting a business, where do you start? And so this is about breaking it down into the smallest step that you possibly can. So the harder thing here is that when you do break things down into steps, try to do the hardest of those small steps first, because this is a semi-sextile and that is a little bit uncomfortable. So, if you have different steps, let's say you were starting a business and one of the steps is design a logo and the other one is build a website, and that's not a small step, I get it, or maybe it's write the copy for the front page of the website. That's more difficult maybe than the fun of designing the logo. You might think it's the opposite. Maybe you writing the copy is easy, but designing the logo, that's hard. So choose the harder thing to move yourself forward. Now, when it comes to money from a career, so that would be like a paycheck, this aspect, this semi-sextile, manifests as a connection with the perks that you could be getting from your job. And maybe these are related to, if you had a higher degree or some sort of certification, or if you took a test, you'd make more money. Or maybe this is just going through the company website page by page to make sure that you are getting all of the perks that you could, because there are some opportunities, and maybe there are things that are small, like a discount on your car insurance or something like that. But these kind of things could add up into almost like getting a raise. Okay, Sagittarius, this full moon is lighting up your money, your money habits, your sense of possessions, what you own, and if your possessions are taking over your life, or if you have some balance in that area. And this is full moon energy. So this is more about assessing where you're at so that you can build what you want. So this is looking at maybe where you are financially, and sometime during this 2 weeks, you might, do a balance sheet for yourself, or what's the other one called? An income statement. Or you may be looking at your budget and say, I'm doing it on paper. Maybe it would be better as an app, or maybe it's an app and it would be better, doing it the old-fashioned way with paper and pencil. So things like that to assess where you're at so that you can then have the foundation to build something better. Now, this is also about possessions, and that would be, how much you're spending, and if you're out buying a pair of scissors and you already have 6 pairs of scissors, do you really need more? These sort of things are probably going to be on your mind during this time. This is also about your sense of deserving. And that's something that you can work on if you focus on it directly and say, if you're not feeling like you are deserving of the money and abundance that you want, then really, stare it down and say, why? Why do I feel this way? And if there are specific things that you're doing or even have done that are in the way of your deserving, then how can you make amends? How can you change behavior? How can you shift this? The cure for this is action and taking action. And this is a cardinal sign. So it's about moving forward, but knowing that you're doing this so that you can feel better about, the abundance that you want to attract. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mars is making a semi-sextile to Jupiter. So you are doing an aspect, and Jupiter's in a relationship house, and that's all very good. The semi-sextile energy is not great because it's like meeting someone and you feel like, I kind of like them, or you like somebody a lot, but there's one aspect about them that irritates you, or something like that. It doesn't feel like it's an exact match. But if you are being social and expanding your circle of friends, this may be an opportunity to meet that person's friends and who they know. Or maybe this is something where if you're looking for a relationship, but you've been wanting someone who's a perfect match, maybe it's time to say, I don't know if I'm going to find a perfect match if I'm only meeting 1 or 2 people a month. So the energy's here to meet someone for a love relationship. It's just there's a little bit of friction when you meet this person. And then speaking of friction, when we look at your existing love relationship, there's a little bit of friction because we have a semi-sextile going on between Mercury and Jupiter. So it's really interesting because, when we look at the cycles of things, it's quite possible that every 13 or 14 months or so, the two of you get into this little place where you can kind of feel a little extra irritated with each other. And so you're in one of those periods now where you can kind of smooth out these bumps, but it does take some real honest communication with each other, and that's where the friction comes around. And so you may not be wanting to do it. And so if that's the case, then this aspect will line up better in the future and you could just wait. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from Saturn, which is sitting at the base of your chart. And so it's trying there to build a strong foundation. Basically, what is it that you are building upon? And that could be your skills or support from others or your ideas and how well they're fleshed out. But this is also the position of the full moon. So we have a giant spotlight on your money right now, which we talked about in the opening. And so there are so many opportunities. Now, this moon directly relates to Saturn because it's in Capricorn, as well as the energy of all of the Cancer planets. So this means that you have some really strong opportunities this time to bring in more money, to get things to a place where you're actually receiving. So this may be that you need to send out the invoice or ask for the job or something, because right now you're in really good and strong energy. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, even though we don't have a direct aspect between the moon and Saturn, the moon's in Capricorn and Capricorn rules Saturn. And then all of these planets, the sun, Venus, and Mercury in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, are in that house of money from others. So you have, again, really strong energy for making more money over this next 2 weeks. So you really want to capitalize on this. That means to, knock on doors and ask for loans or grants, or, do an assessment of where your investments are. See if you're allocated correctly. See if you want to do something different with your money. So you just have really strong energy at this time. Now, when it comes to money from your career, that would be like a paycheck. The connection's a little bit loose. So there's not a direct connection between Venus and Saturn. However, Venus is in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon in Capricorn, which is ruled by the Saturn, which happens to be in Pisces. So it feels to me like you're one step removed from what it is that you want to get. And so maybe your boss is on vacation and you can't really ask the person filling in, or your boss says they have to go ask their boss. So there's some sort of extra step that has to happen. This energy will line up better in the future, but you do have you've got generally good money energy. So if you're already in the process of asking, this is a time to pursue it. Okay, Capricorn, this full moon is your full moon, and that means that the spotlight is shining directly on you. That means you have more opportunities to put yourself forward and be seen, to ask for a leadership role, to confidently move forward on projects, to build your brand, to basically, be the person that you want to be. This is your time. So, and you have this really nice audience on the other side with Sun, Venus, Mercury. So as you do this, you're going to find that you get more support than you expect. So this is a really good time to believe in yourself and push and go farther than you were thinking of doing. So if you've been working on yourself and, trying to clear blocks and practice speaking and connecting with people and speaking in public and connecting with people, this is the time to put it on the line, to get on stage, to take the microphone, or to raise your hand at the meeting, or even stand up at the meeting and make a speech. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you have really good relationship energy here, though Venus is not making a direct aspect with Saturn. The funny thing is there's a hidden aspect here. I don't know if that's funny, but it's interesting. And that is that Venus is in Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is in Capricorn, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so we needed a connection between Saturn and the moon to bring that person to you. And so we have this sort of stair-stepping sort of connection. And that could mean that, like you go to meet someone and you don't find that person, but you meet somebody else, so it would be, and I know that sounds like something out of a movie, but that's the kind of energy that you're doing. So it just means get out there, go meet people, because you may be quite surprised where this connection comes from. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, again, you have really good relationship houses going on. So they are lit up. That's fantastic. And then you have this, again, more hidden connection between the moon and Saturn. They're not making a direct aspect. However, the moon's in Capricorn, and Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. So they are speaking to each other. So this means that over the next 2 weeks, you could have a really good time with your partner. And I think that where we see the possible disconnect is maybe you're not, like you're so busy that you're not seeing each other as much, or maybe you're traveling for some of it, but not together. But there is some real opportunities here to have more joy in the relationship, more of a sense of connection and harmony, to be on the same page. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from both Saturn and Uranus, which always gives you extra ways of getting money into your life. And Pluto, of course, is going through this house for you. And so that also is another source of money for you. But the interesting thing is that now Mars is getting closer and closer to Uranus. So it feels like you're building up to something. And so this is a time to assess your progress on this buildup. Maybe you are taking a small business and you're trying to see if it's profitable, or taking a small business and maybe considering selling it. Or perhaps you are looking for additional sources of income and you want to see if they're going to pan out. This is a time to say, where am I in this journey? How far have I come? Is it worth it to keep going? Or, should I veer? Should I change? Should I quit this so I have resources to do something else? This is a time of assessment. Now, when it comes to money from business and from investments, the Sun's making an out-of-sign semi-sextile to Uranus. So there are some things that you need to do to help your income to flow in from these sources. But again, out of sign means it's not as obvious again. So a lot of this to me says you have to kind of sit down and do things quite deliberately to think about, what's working, what's not, with this specific area. Because it's a semi-sextile, is what is the piece of friction that's holding you back from taking an action that would be so beneficial in your business? And you might say, well, I don't like to make sales calls, or I don't know how to fix my website. I mean, these are legitimate things. So therefore, then now that we've identified the friction, how can we get past that? What needs to happen to make this flow more easily? Now, when it comes to money from your career, so that would be like a paycheck, you're doing quite a rare aspect, and that is that Saturn's making a semi-square to Pluto. Now, both these planets move quite slowly, and so this aspect doesn't line up this way very often. But it is doing this now, and I can't remember how long you're going to be doing this aspect. The semi-square energy it does create some momentum for action, but it does feel a little bit awkward or outside your comfort zone, or outside of anybody's comfort zone. And so there is possibilities of gaining more money from your job right now, but this may mean that you need to take a different type of position, or to take a position that requires more responsibility. This may involve changing jobs. This is a bigger thing. And it really says that if there's no opportunities at all for making more money in your current job, then it's probably time to start looking around at other divisions within the company, other positions in the company, or other jobs entirely. Okay, Aquarius, this full moon is lighting up this area for you of daily spiritual practices and your connection with the universe, and how much you are losing yourself to distractions or compulsive behaviors or things like that. So this is a time where mindfulness and deliberate actions and taking things more slowly, so that you say, not only this is the thing I want, but why do I want this thing? And why do I want to go this direction? And with the daily spiritual habits, these are the things that build your intuition, that build your psychic abilities, that help you connect with the universe. And so this is your opportunity to kind of structure that through something that you do on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be daily. I know our schedules get kind of crazy, but if you can bring it down to even a mini habit of something where you say a prayer in the morning, or an affirmation, or you go and dust off your lucky money cat every day, these sort of things over time builds into a foundation that you can build something on that connects you to the greater universe and opportunities that come with that. Now, this is also a time to assess how much negative behaviors have crept back into your daily routines. And so maybe you gave up sugar at one point, or television, or something else, and now it's kind of crept back in. And so then you can say, nope, I'm going to go back to, living the life that brings me what I want versus that short-term, happiness with, Netflix or whatever. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's making a semi-square to Uranus. And so it's quite possible you're pretty fed up with the whole dating thing at the moment. And so you may not be wanting to do it. And that's the moment that somebody comes in and says, hey, I would really like to go out with you. So you could kind of go head to head with somebody about this. Or the situation could be reversed, where you're asking someone out and they say, nope, I've sworn off dating and all that. And so the timing, there's an aspect here, and we always like to see an aspect for getting something done. This is a challenging aspect. It can feel frustrating. And so if you go into it saying, I'm probably going to get frustrated, but I'm going to do this anyway, because there is an aspect, and that means you can make a connection. And so even if it doesn't work out during this 2 weeks, you've at least made a connection, and then you could reconnect outside this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the sun's making an out-of-sign semi-sextile to Uranus. So there's something going on in your daily routines where you're kind of trying to come together and compromise about something. So, and that's going to help the relationship in the long run, even though it doesn't feel as smooth right now. And this could be something that bothers your partner that you didn't even realize was bothering them, or vice versa. And this is an opportunity to kind of work that out. And it's pretty minor. It's, when you actually think about it, it's not going out of your way or their way too much to make each other happy. And so I think that that's where it will lead to, is like, okay, I can do this small thing and that brings you happiness, then I'll do it. Now, when it comes to your money, you've got some really interesting energy, because Neptune is right at 29 Pisces, and it's going to get one more minute, and it's a astrological minute, and so it takes longer than an actual minute. And then it's going to go retrograde. And when it does, it's going to stay in your house of money then for a while. So, but because it's at 29, it is quite necessary for you to be focused on finishing projects that are money related. So that's starting your business or launching a product or getting something done. And it feels like that time was coming to an end. And then Neptune's going to go retrograde and you have more time. But additionally, you have Jupiter in Gemini, which is doing semi-sextiles on both sides. And so it kind of feels like everything is a little bit irritating, a little bit hard, a little bit more than you want to do. And it's true. All of the things that you want to accomplish are more effort than just sitting. Right? So, for some reason right now, for some reason, it's a semi-sextile reason, it feels irritating that that's the case, that it's not as easy as you maybe think it should be. I don't even think that's the case. I think it's just not as easy as you want it to be. Now, that all said, these are great placements for bringing in more money, but it does say to take the steps necessary to make it happen. Now, when it comes to money from business or investments, Mercury's not making an aspect with Neptune. However, it is making that semi-sextile to Jupiter. And so there are some small yet irritating things that you need to do. And when you do those things, you'll make more money. And so think of what it is that you don't want to do. That sounds like a lot of trouble. It sounds like, what a pain. Those are the things that could lead you to more money over this next 2 weeks. And then when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, Jupiter's making an out-of-sign sextile to Neptune. And that means that you have opportunities now to gain more money in your career, but they may be a bit of a surprise to your boss when you ask. And so be prepared that when you ask and your boss says, oh, I never expected you to bring this up because it's an out-of-sign aspect, then you say, but let's sit down and talk about it anyway. And the opportunity is there. Okay, Pisces, this full moon energy is lighting up your area of friendships and community. And so if this has been on your mind, that you need more friends, that you want to expand the community that you're in, that you want to be around more people, you are right in harmony with this energy. Now, this is full moon energy, and so it says that there are opportunities right now, and that means getting out of the house and doing it. And this might be meetup groups or organizations that have regular meetings, that they're in your community already, and you just have to get out there. And this is also, though, because it's this Capricorn full moon, it is you assessing what you're doing to gain more friends or the things that you want. And of course, this energy also, there's more things, but we'll talk about that in a second. This is looking at the things that you're doing on a daily basis and saying, oh, okay, well, I'm staying home most days, and so of course I'm not meeting anyone. And then you say, all right, I'm going to put these different events in my schedule and get to them. And that's the assessment. Now, this is also tech skills, and so you may be looking at your technology skills and saying, oh, everything's moving along and I need to catch up in some areas. So doing an assessment of where you're at with technology that's needed for your business or your art and creativity. And then this is also about planning for the future. And this is your assessment time. So this is looking at what you have built so that you can launch your rocket into the future. So therefore, do you have a solid platform to launch from? And that's, support from others, resources. Do you have the tech knowledge to launch your rocket? So what kind of plans do you have for the future? And then also, is that still the direction you want to go? That's the other reason for an assessment. If you said, I'm gonna take my rocket ship to the moon, and then you decide, I don't really care about the moon, I don't really want to go there, then it's time to say, I'm not going to build a rocket. Maybe I'm going to build a submarine instead. I know. I'm feeling these are very weird examples. Sorry about that. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's making an out of sign square to Neptune. This means that there is a real opportunity to meet someone for a love relationship in a very unexpected place or in an unexpected way. So it's really good if you're looking for love to be social and to go to places, especially last minute, places where people didn't expect you to show up, and you could be really pleasantly surprised. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune. So there is probably quite a bit of harmony going on. I think your co-ruler Jupiter is making a semi-sextile to Mercury, so I think that there's probably some minor irritations going on at home, but otherwise, the two of you are getting along just as you have been for a while. There's not a lot of changes going on in the relationship now, so it's just kind of status quo with some slight irritations that you can work out, but you can also just say, we'll work on those later. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from Mars, which is in Taurus now in that area of communication, and it is moving to conjunct Uranus. It's still going to be a bit. It's outside of this 2-week period, but it's building, and that is a really big opportunity. So this is where we really hear that old saying that luck is preparation, when preparation meets opportunity, or I'm sure somebody knows that saying, but that's what this is like prepare for the synchronicity or the chance meeting or the great opportunity, because that is coming. So, and that's prepare by getting the foundation in place, but also prepare by your mindset of telling the universe what kind of opportunities you're looking for, and then put yourself in that path. So this is really awesome. I mean, right now it's mostly about assessing where you are and what your goals are, but you do have some really big opportunity coming up. Now, when it comes to money from business and from investments, Mars is making a sextile to Venus. Big opportunities there. Well, I shouldn't say big because it's a sextile, but it is great for opportunities. But with a sextile, you always have to take the initial action. So that is, you start investigating investments and then you find something. You make some changes to your website and then you get more customers. So there is real opportunities here. Remember that the South Node is still going through that area though for you. So as you release something and let it go, you do have then the energy and the time and the resources to grab hold of something better. So always keep that in mind. You're going to still be doing that energy for quite a while, like 7 or 8 months. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be like a paycheck, even though Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn, this is where the full moon is lit up. And that does mean that there are real opportunities because there's a spotlight on you. So maybe you did something that's a high profile project, or maybe you are presenting your team's project. Maybe you are on an airplane with your boss and you have a lot of time to spend talking. There is something going on over this 2 weeks where you have more of an opportunity because you're visible, and that could lead to more money. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you need a copy of your chart, I will send you a PDF. That PDF does contain a lot of information. It contains all of the aspects that you have in your natal chart and, what elements things are in. It does declinations, so you can see parallels and counter parallels if you're into that. It also has moon speed, and so other things that can be very helpful to know about your chart. And so again, there's a link in the description if you want a copy of your chart, and I will see you in the next video.